So tonight I was going to read a scripted piece about my experiences with body dysmorphia, and after about 3 separate attempts I have decided that that is not what I'm going to do tonight. Instead I am going to do a little sort of ad lib about my personal views on life and why I feel so positive about, I guess, just being alive, and my perception, my perspective on existence. And I know that is an incredibly broad thing, especially at 10 to 1 for me here in the morning, but I think for me it can be really helpful and can really provide me with a strength and a feeling of importance, which I think is very, very important for people who are struggling, or people who have mental health difficulties, people who feel in some way inferior at times, insignificant, people who feel as though they have no purpose. So, I guess what I'll say first is that I am non-religious. I grew up in almost every school I went to Christian. I identified as a Christian for many years until I developed body dysmorphia, and as a result I can actually remember the moment I realised for me that religion was not appropriate for me. I've always held since then that if tomorrow I decided actually it is in some way, I would not want somebody to say you can't do that, to take it away from me. So my philosophy is, although my views on religion may be a certain way, I do not believe it is right for me to say that other people can't believe what they believe, because you never know why people do what they do. Some people, for all I know, it makes them incredibly happy, but also it could be all that keeps people going, and I think there are boundaries that you have to maintain as a result. I would say for me, I identify as a humanist. I have for many years. I personally feel that this gives me something that religion couldn't, in the sense that I don't feel that my life is predestined, that I'm guided by any force. I don't believe in destiny, or I don't believe in life after death. And some people I've spoken to have said, but doesn't that seem like everything is so purposeless, that there is no reason, why are we struggling if there's nothing after? And I say, I think, for me at least, we are so lucky if you consider the odds that are astronomical that you or I could even be here. The atmosphere, oxygen nitrogen mix is just right to support life, and that in the year 2016 I am sat here as the result of however many tens of thousands, millions of years of evolution for our genus alone. And forgive me if the dates are way off, but the fact that my ancestors didn't succumb to some disease, and the fact that I am here now, the fact that, and this seems morbid, I know, but I think the perspective is so important, that I am not some victim of war. I am not the victim of an abuse, anything. I have, I live in a stable nation with clean water and healthcare and all these things that we take for granted. I think that can be one thing that makes me think, wow, I'm very, very lucky. But also I think, as I don't believe in an afterlife, I feel that this is my chance. This is my chance to experience anything, and there is so much to experience, from the smallest thing, the smallest smile from a stranger, to a sunset or anything, whatever it is, there's so much. And I think another element to that is the wider universe. I mean, I hear time and time again people say, I feel so small, I feel so insignificant, but I think when you consider the massive size, the incomprehensible size of the universe and so forth, and you think, my God, I'm so small, but I am so unique. There is nobody like me. There is no me anywhere else, and there never will be. All of the odds and the chemicals and everything, the chance elements, all of it have come together, and here I am for this small period of time to be utterly unique and special in my own way, and I think that's fantastic. And sometimes just breathing is enough. If you're feeling, if you're ill or whatever it is, if you're having a bad day or whatever it is, if just being here sometimes, I think, while that can sometimes be excruciating, it can be worth the pain to come out the other side. Now, another element that people have asked me is, what do I think of life and death in terms of, if I don't believe something happens after, then, am I afraid? Am I afraid of nothing? And I think, to me, as a psychology student, as somebody who has a lot of understanding of the brain, and somebody who, as I said, describes himself as a humanist and non-religious and atheist, doesn't discount the fact that I can't know for sure that there's nothing. Of course I can't. But I find great comfort in the idea that before I was born, I didn't exist and I wasn't aware of it. And that's exactly how I think it will be after I die. My brain will stop functioning, so I will not be self-aware of something or the lack of something. I think of it a lot like dreamless sleep, in the sense that you're just not functioning. You are simply not, and that's okay. It's not, oh my God, I'm here in this dark nothingness, or oh my God, it takes it out of my hands. And I think it also allows me to live freely now and think, I'm not afraid of what might come, so I'm not going to restrict my life. I'm not going to restrict my thoughts. I'm not going to restrict my sexuality. I'm not going to restrict anything else that I personally feel might be restricted by another way of thinking, another way of living my life. And for me, that is very important. Now, I think that as a humanist, it's easy for me to say life is so great because, a humanist from a white middle class background, and I know I am very privileged and I am very grateful for who I am, for what I have. But I think that, as I said, if I was living another life, if I was from another part of the world and things were different in some way or a lot of ways, I know that my point of view, well, I'm sure, would be different, but sometimes I find, as I said before, the smallest things, not the little luxuries in life, or the bigger ones, the smallest things like that smile or that sunset, whatever it is, can be all you need sometimes. And I think that is what it's all about. I think to live every day and to not follow fads and advice of live every day like it's your last. We can't do that. Some days you're just not going to have the best day. But that's all right. That's the way it works. And tomorrow could be absolutely fantastic. You never know. It may not be, but who knows what could be 6 months down the line, 1 week down the line, 2 days down the line. There's so much potential, and I think if we all just take a minute to stop and think, what can we be grateful for, whether we're religious or not religious or whatever it is. Think about the fact that we are unique and we have this one. We have us. We are simply and totally special in ourselves, and just that in itself, I think, is something to be cherished, and hopefully that might give some people some calm and some perspective to think that they don't have to match anybody else's expectations. That's how I feel, that I don't actually have to live my life for anybody else. I can just go step by step, and just being here sometimes, just being and breathing can be enough. I'll stop warbling now. So hopefully that helps.